The Central Bank of Nigeria has declared that importers of 43 items previously restricted from accessing foreign exchange at the official window are now allowed to purchase FX in the Nigerian foreign exchange market going forward. The development came just as the CBN governor, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, has emphasized that the Apex Bank does not have a magic wand to address the myriad of challenges facing the Nigerian economy. The Apex Bank in June 2015 had initially included 41 items to the list of commodities which were not valid to purchase FX from the market, citing the need to conserve the scarce Forex and encourage domestic production for self-sufficiency and exports. The list was thereafter expanded to 43 items. Some of the items listed then as not fit for Forex included rice, cement, margarine, palm kernel products, and vegetable oil, among others. Joining us on the morning show to discuss CBN's intervention in the country's foreign exchange market to boost liquidity and stem Naira plunge is Professor Ken Ife, a London Enterprise Ambassador and Chief Economic Strategist in ECOWAS Commission. Good morning, Prof. You're welcome to the morning show.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning for having me.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Thank you, it's my pleasure. You can, from the introduction that I read, I mean, all eyes are on CBN now. And I think that one of the key things that Mr. Olayemi Cardoso has done since he became the CBN governor is, this new policy to remove, as you know, to return the 43 otherwise banned items, to return, to be able to access FX. In your own opinion, how do you welcome this? And how do you think that it will have an impact, first on the Naira itself, and then on production, on local production? A lot of people will have thought that for cement and rice especially, where we thought that we had a comparative advantage, now it looks like the government might be encouraging importation, given the excuse that has been adduced. What are your thoughts? And do you think that by this policy, the CBN is on the right track?
I think, on balance, the thought of bringing back these items to help unification of the exchange rate is a good one, but it can only stand if we unpack all the variables that are beneath the surface, and if monetary and fiscal authorities are going to work together to handle the challenges, because the challenges are enormous, that is going to bring. And let me give you a background before we can plunge into this huge topic. First of all, Forex, inflation, NPR rates, interest rates, they're all price. And in any price mechanism, it is about resolving demand and supply. So you've got to have a demand and supply perspective at all times. Many people don't. They just talk either on the demand or they talk either on the supply. The second one is the International Division of Labor has placed Nigeria and Africa on the cold end of commodity production, be it mineral, solid mineral, crude oil, agricultural produce, for them to be consummated by the industrial structures in Europe and then brought back to us to consume. And the challenge there is that we are expected to forfeit 80% of our imports under the EPA agreement, but gracefully Nigeria refused to sign that agreement. But the fact of the matter is that those things are not wish lists. We have political economy factors and international interests that are perpetuating that design that we should be an import-dependent economy. And let me tell you something. To be import-dependent means that you are going to be on the transmission belt of every conceivable global headwind and shock. It doesn't matter whether it is crude oil, it doesn't matter whether it is COVID-19 or American subprime mortgage of 2008, anything global will affect you because your economy is completely exposed to those headwinds. But let me take you to two attempts Nigeria have used, our strategy, to deal with this matter. The first of our strategy has been value addition, progressive value addition, and those value addition linked to import substitution. That has worked well in cement, but I find no reason why they are reluctant to apply them elsewhere. Then the second one is that we have export-led growth, and it is export-led growth that brings inclusiveness and inclusivity, which in this turn not only encourages investment, but also encourages employment and sustainable poverty reduction. Now, those are the two strategies we are using. So, before you address the issue of what has changed from 2016 when we excluded this and what has changed till now, why it was necessary to bring them back, I have to point to another one factor. That other factor is that the big elephant in the room is NNPC. NNPC accounts for 90% of our Forex revenue, 79% on crude and 11% on gas. So while they are the dominant factor in the Forex revenue, they are also the dominant expenditure of spender of the revenue, because up until about from 2014 up until about 2020, they were consuming 40% of the Forex. But now what that happened was that just about 2.5 years ago, they went into direct swap, crude swap with the foreign refiners, confiscating all the Forex revenue. And then when people started shouting, they now release only 10%. So they only give now 300 million every month, whereas they used to give from 2014 $3 billion every month to go to CBN from crude and gas revenue. So what has happened is that they are now returned to, we bring in 90% of the Forex, so we are now consuming 90% of the Forex. But try and square up this calculation. CBN requires about $1.8 billion every month to do this debt service and all of that. But the Forex request from the people importing is still around $4.6 billion every month. If you add the two, you are looking at about $7 billion every month being requested. Against what's receivable, you can imagine what's receivable. That other 10% is neither here nor there, because the major one there, that's where remittance has shifted outside the orbit of the central bank. And the foreign direct investment, people have been exercising hope. It is just not coming because of some factors I will still enumerate if you give me some time. Now, so there are so many hostages to that thought that you could generate those, or that they will come where you just have a policy shift. Now, we now come to the most important one, which is what has changed is there are binding constraints. One is insecurity. Insecurity has worsened from 2014 to now. The second one is speculation in the market. Speculation is even worse now, because many people who don't have economic activities to earn money, who can't even do import-export, are simply looking at dollarizing the economy and looking at dollar as a store of value. So you have speculators that are every day speculating on this currency and giving you forward rates of $1,240 and naira to $1 in January. When you have that, it means that you can't wish this problem away. There are speculators that are making money from just doing that. Not because they need the dollar to trade. No, they're just doing that because that's the only business they think they can make rapid money in. Now you have another one. Other binding constraints, infrastructure. You know, we're only having 35% of our of the store of infrastructure compared to the likes of South Africa, that's about 85%. So we still have infrastructure. I ordered cement, 900 bags of cement, paid for it for 3 weeks. Over 2 weeks, they are shot in between Nsukka and they get just about 10 kilometers. They've been there for over 7 days. Why? What's it going to affect? How does it affect the price? So you have the roads, the state of the roads. We're not using inland water. So transportation has become a huge cost. So it is a strain, and then you have power supply. So all of these binding constraints are coming together, and they are not improving. So we are now going to find out how do we actually make sure that what we want to do now is not going to put a CBN in a straitjacket, because you cannot leave this to CBN alone. There must be a serious handshake between the monetary and fiscal authorities. And we had that problem in 2016, and I kept on warning the minister then that if you don't align with central bank in this fiscal policy, with your fiscal policy, we're going to have more problem coming. And so I hope that a lot of consultation would have taken place between the monetary and fiscal authority so that the kind of measures that we need to kick in actually do kick in. And I can give you an example of those measures. Now, if you remove these lists, these products, and take them back, there are good reasons for CBN wanting to do this. Let me tell you why. As at last year, about 90%, early last year, about 90% of the Forex was actually happening around the NAFEX window. So it's only up less than 10% that was in the cold end of the black market. But now it has shifted considerably. That a smaller margin is in the official window and the huge one are going there. So what it means that the equilibrium price will begin to shift towards the black market rate. So opening that up, well, it's okay, but there must be complementary measures to ensure that, for example, you have to raise the duty on those items. If you don't raise the duty, they will decimate all the industries that have come up to try to deal with import substitution. All those industries that have come in to us over that period, I mean, look at the textile industry. You can't even name them. They will be decimated. And why do you want to use levy instrument? It's because we are signatory to CET, ECOWAS Common External Tariff. So we can't change those. It's band 0, 5, 10%, 20%, and 35%. We can't change that. But we are allowed to use levy instruments to up the duty. So those ones that you know, for example, cement and rice that are going to be in jeopardy, raise the instrument, use about 20% to augment the duty so that you are sending a signal to the people who are going to be importing. If you import, we will collect more revenue. And if you import, we are protecting our industries. If you don't do that and have that complementary measure, we're gonna be talking about this for a very long time to come. Now, which other area that are critical? Now, you have the industry structure that is so decimated for Forex. 80% of the manufacturing capacity in our country depend on importation of their raw material. What kind of thing is this? Even the pharmaceutical, 95% or more, because the API, which are active pharmaceutical ingredients, are all imported. So we have to look at that. How do you encourage other industries that are dependent on our raw material, and whether it's in solid mineral or gas or whatever, to produce wealth? So we have to deal with that because they are the ones consuming the Forex on one hand. And then, of course, you have the issue, fundamental issue of the transmissibility of foreign monetary policy. Monetary policy is coming under straight jacket because, one, you have less number of people banked, over less than 40%, almost 40% unbanked. You have cryptocurrency taking young people away. You have all these things, and you have 3-point-something trillion in circulation. And, so we have so much issues there that to transmit monetary policy is a big challenge. And you are asking banks to come in and do this, do that, open market, when the resources are available to the banks are also shrinking because of the loan to deposit ratio, the liquidity ratio, the cash reserve ratio. All of these ratios are restraining them. Secondly, the industries are not even borrowing because they can't borrow at over 30% interest rate. Agriculture people are not even borrowing because they can't even go to the farm. So look at all these. And then now, one that nobody talks about is this. We are surrounded by 100 Francophone citizens. All the countries surrounding us are Francophone citizens. Our Naira has devalued so much by nearly 80% from 2014 that the money is so cheap to them. And then they have the benefit of an artificial price for CFA. France aligned CFA to euro, and then keeps 80% of the reserves of these Francophone countries and give them only 20%. So they bond their reserves to maintain that artificial level. So how can their currency remain the same for 8 years? It's not possible. They are bonding their reserves. So now, from their perspective, they are now finding Nigerian imports to them extremely cheap. And what does that do to you? What does that do to you is this. If we increase the price of our agricultural produce by 80%, they will still be buying your agricultural produce because it is so much cheaper for them. Now, secondly, they have an elasticity of demand. If you raise the price by 50%, Nigerians can't afford them anymore, but they will still afford them. In fact, they don't need to go to farm anymore because they just get what we give them. They use the small power that they have to add value and they export them. And here, we don't even have the power to export.
Okay.
So So you can see what decision parameters.
Yes. Okay, Prof. Good to see you again. One of the things that I have done over the course of the week was that I made some calls to get to hear from those who are in the sectors affected by the produce or the products that are now available for importation. Rice is one of them. Cement is another one. And I spoke with some of the CEOs and leaders in the sector. And their concern is that it seems as if the CBN has not learned any lesson from the past. Because what they are saying very clearly is that no matter how much you want to get back in terms of revenue from importation tax, it will never even out to the extent that it helps. Even if you take the money from the importation tax and you plow it directly into the cement industry and plow it directly into the rice sector, you will never give enough to them to be able to grow that sector. Please help me understand, as an economist, which I am not, do you think, in very straight street language, does it make sense to allow importation of rice, considering where we're coming from and where we intend to go? And at the stage where we are at now, does it make sense to allow importation of rice? Yes or no? Very straightforward answer, because I have a couple of questions I want to follow up with.
It cannot be yes or no, please. For me to do it cannot be yes or no for me.
Okay, help me understand, sir.
I could, yeah. Let me tell you. Let me explain to you something.
Yes, sir.
You can allow it. It's always good to have a free market. It is always good to have competition. But you have to protect your infant industry. If your strategy is, if you are consigned to import dependency, you must add value and then protect the industries, your infant industries. You must do that. Every country in the world protects their infant industry.
Okay.
What they don't want is for you to give a blanket check, blow these people out of the system. No. You have to use your levy instrument to increase the tax on those items you want to protect the industry, to show to the industry we don't want you to disappear overnight. Please continue what you are doing. Those who are buying that particular item should pay more. And then so you give that policy space. You have to do both. I can't say yes or no.
Okay,
because
sir.
You have to do both to be able to protect the industries.
So I'm presenting the thought of those who are in the sector. So they're saying, you just mentioned now that you have to put a lot of tax. I wonder how much you will sell the basmati rice that comes from different parts of the world. And you now say you double the price of it, and you expect that those who have the money will still buy. But the implication is, when you do that, does it protect the rice industry in any way, shape, or form when they don't, like you said, they don't have access to fund 30% tax? They don't have access to good road. When they bring it back out from a Ebonyi state to get it into Lagos makes it extremely difficult for them to get the right pricing. So all of these factors, as an economist, like you said, does it make sense?
Well, let me tell you something, please. We have had these import restrictions in 2016. All the things you mentioned, basmati rice, they are all still being consumed and imported. What we have not done, central bank does not ban. It didn't ban, because I've defended this many times. What they said is, I have not got the dollar, so I cannot give it to you. Rather, I will use my resources to support the growth and development of the substitute market and then go ahead and backwardly integrate. They didn't ban. So what happened is that, because if you ban, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala will be in trouble, because a lot of the people will be going to tribunal in the WTO. So what we did is to say, okay, I haven't got it, so go and find it elsewhere. So they are still importing those goods. Yes, there is a transport problem in moving domestically manufactured goods, but those also, they have to have transport problem. So their prices continue to go high, but what you have to pitch it much, much higher to give the headroom to those who are producing locally, so that they don't shut down. If they shut down, bringing them back will be a mirage.
Okay, very quickly
so that's
then,
the
Prof.
thing, is the policy has to...
Okay, so Prof, very quickly then, help us understand. Over the years, we've complained, or Nigerians have complained about the fact that CBN is doing both fiscal and monetary policy and executing both under former governor of CBN, Emefiele. Now there's a new governor or new sheriff in town, in the manner of speaking, and he is wanting to change the game so that it is not said that he's doing that. How do you create the balance? What will be your advice to the CBN and to the minister, coordinating minister of the economy, in terms of their collaboration to ensure that fiscal policy and monetary policy align to make it possible for us to be able to say Nigeria seems to be heading towards the right trajectory?
Well, I have impressed upon the former minister several times in our discussions the need for him to use that instrument for under the ECOWAS. And he did. In the last Finance Act, they put 5%. And I said, go to 20%. Take it a much, much higher. The second point is this. The two policies must continue. I advised the previous minister. I said, see, you know you have MPs, Monetary Policy Committee in Central Bank. Please have your own fiscal policy committee. So that, because there are many, many areas of fiscal policy, have a coordinating monetary fiscal policy committee that coordinates that. And once in a year, there will be a meeting between fiscal and monetary on a single agenda, which is harmonization of monetary and fiscal policy. The minister liked that, and then set the machinery in motion to achieve that. Unfortunately, as of today, it wasn't delivered, but many steps were taken to actualize that. You need to institutionalize the link between monetary and fiscal policy, because we are moving into an uncharted territory where you are bringing this back, which is not a bad idea, but it's just you need a higher order of coordination between the two policies. Otherwise, it's going to be a very, very tough weight, and it's not going to be very easy for anybody and everybody. I keep saying that. That is the same thing that I said when the president announced on the first day the price convergence and also the other one, removal of subsidy. I said these are very, very important decisions that are needed. We can't wait anymore. But please, in the next 30 days, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. And that is not a magic wand. But, you know, there are realities on the Forex as a price mechanism. So we have to see how it goes. And then you've seen how it all played out.
All right, Prof. One of the key words that the CBN governor, Mr. Cardoso, used while reeling out this latest development was to say that the CBN hasn't got the magic wand. You have used the same word yourself, the same expression, just now. And if you tie that back to what the wife of the president, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, said, she also said that her husband is not a magician. Which, if you put this together, what the CBN governor said and the wife of the president, is at variance to what the president has consistently, said, that he's a strategist and that he knows what it takes to fix Nigeria. As a matter of fact, on social media and on the street, the word that is being used for the president, I don't know if you're familiar with the Yoruba street lingo, is Idon. Idon simply means magic. And what they are trying to say is that, this is the magician who can fix things for Nigeria. But here we are, the CBN governor says there's no magic wand. The wife of the president says that, her husband is not a magician. But a lot of people believe that what Nigeria needs at this point is something akin to a magician. What do you think can be done so that it doesn't look like CBN is already giving excuses? You have identified the elephant in the room in NNPC.
No.
Yes, go on, sir.
Yes.
Go on, please.
Yes. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
I tell you what. Central Bank of Nigeria doesn't print dollars. And it should never expect it to print dollars. We don't even have any machine that prints dollars, and it's an illegal to. So don't expect them to do what they are not supposed to do, to print dollar. We have told you the analysis of the dollar supply to the country. Obviously, there are many ways you can use policy to bring more people into the basket. For example, banks have some of their own dollars. Foreign remittance will come in more if we continue in a unified approach, which they are trying to do. So there are ways, but it is not going to end up in asking central bank to go and print dollar. So that's one. Then secondly, I remember when Babangida was asked what he thought about our president before election. He said that Bola Tinubu is very smart, that he can fix Nigeria. And I have to give it to him that he has ideas that could actually change the game. But these things take finite time. It's not something that will happen instantly. So they take time and they need a lot of planning. So I would expect that in this announcement to move these 41 items back, that there have been big understanding between the fiscal and monetary authorities on measures that will be taken to support so that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm hoping.
All right, Prof. I mean, before we let you go, we've run out of time quickly. But then you mentioned something that is very important, which the Buhari administration didn't have: the synergy between the finance minister and the CBN governor. Here you have Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu having two of his closest boys at the helm of affairs, Wale Edun as the finance minister and coordinating minister of the economy, and Yemi Cardoso, as the CBN governor. They both work together under Asiwaju in Lagos State. Do you think that this portends something good for Nigeria and for the sector, for the financial sector, unlike what we had in the past? Very quickly, sir.
That relationship will be a game changer, but we have to utilize it to the fullest. And all we are here to do is to suggest to them the pathways that will bring it all together. And the rest of it will be music to everybody's ear.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much, Professor Ken Ife, for joining us on the morning show today. We would have loved to go, much more further than you, given the brilliance in your analysis. But we do thank you for joining us this morning.